So he's motivated by accomplishment, by Saturn, by security, by accomplishing things. He projects what he values. The Libra ascendant projects his values, his ideas. The sun's right there. But like I say, projects it, but often doesn't feel he's appreciated enough, or doesn't get he's confident enough. So that the feedback he gets going to give me more strong feedback to Aries. He responds to the Aries moon. I got to do this. I got to do this. People saying things, people responding. He sees what he has to do. But on a subtle level, being appreciated, he can always feel a little less than appreciated. People don't quite get what he sees. They don't quite see it. He has this reserve in there. It's an inner evaluation. That inner evaluation can be haunting around business. Am I paid enough for what I'm doing? How long do I stay here? Do I want to do this? Or it can be a spiritual reflection of that. So the Venus in the 12th can put one into a spiritual concern. The Neptune Mars can make one a little aloof and evasive. So even in a relationship, he'd get to a point where he gets more spiritually interested than physically interested. But that wouldn't be so when he's younger. Not likely. Okay, so we got basic idea. You can see the Libra, the need. I mean, he knows his astrology. He's good. I'm sure he does it for some people, but it's possible it doesn't quite provide as much money or as much strength as maintaining his regular job. Okay, so this is stuff probably going on around now. I don't know. I haven't talked to him or anything about this, so this is my caricature that I'm making of him and putting some context in so we can look at the transits and progressions. Okay, so now, so long. Okay, so this is just the transit charts around the progressive life path of how to get rid of the aspects in the mess, all the complicated aspects in the middle. So there's too many. But here we see the Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn in the transits on the outside, and Jupiter's just gone into Capricorn, and they're all coming up. Jupiter's in the 3rd house, Venus on the IC, Saturn, Pluto coming. Saturn's coming up to a Saturn return. It's a predominant time. This is significant. The Saturn down on just past the 4th house. That's a very profound, one of the deepest moments in a life. Knowing what you motivate, knowing what you don't want, knowing you have to move away from what you want, having to figure out what you want, that you want to strive to work things, and you're going to want to make things happen right away and change the world right away. But it's really going to take a few years to build up more skills and to get things going. So, okay, so we just kind of glance at it. We see the Neptune is in Pisces at 15. It's not really hitting anything in his chart. So no deceptive issues going on in his life or fanciful issues. It's more reality checks. What do I want to do? What am I doing? How much work? Probably when do I retire? When do I not retire? And if I retire, can I then just go do astrology, or can I it's more like puzzles like that. So I just talked because you see the chart, sometimes you get a chart, you see things around it. But really to work this, we've got to stop this and watch the Saturn move around. We've got to watch the planets move around. Okay, so the chart there, I can put it beside here now. Okay, so we want to look at the Saturn. So the Saturn starts low. It's in the 4th house. Like I said, in Capricorn. The need for security, the feeling inhibited or restricted at home, but there's a need to work to achieve that, to get respect, and to work for security. And his understanding, he's got to understand what needs to be done, like changing country, having to learn a language and get here and reestablish oneself, do the work to build up a home base and a foundation. This is work. But he's motivated by that. It's his motivation. So Saturn started his life, built up, went over his descendant, maybe around 6 years old. And then it built up to his midheaven at about 13. So he's at a peak status at a young age. By about 20, 18, 20, it's caving. Saturn's going down over the ascendant. His world's caving in around him and nothing's working. And this would have been in the 80s. So as the 80s approach. So going through this period, now I don't remember back all that far, but I don't remember when. I think it was a little bit later than that when the Polish revolutions were happening. The Polish change with Lech Wałęsa and the upheavals were happening in Poland, And there were, I don't know if he came here in that or after. It's right. I think he came shortly after, not at the first wave, but around that time or shortly thereafter. But you can see his identity of where the world was changed. Caved in. Could be something from that. Could be parents splitting up. Could be things, but it could be that political things like we gotta live in. I gotta live in another place. So this is, that's only he's 18. He's still in. He would still be in school. Did he finish his university? Did he have to let go of it to move, or probably he would try and finish it? But at the same time, it's going below the horizon. Personal growth, personal development, personal identity, and not fitting into the old as he starts through his 20s. And going through his 20s up to the Saturn return, it's going to come down to the IC of what am I motivated? What am I doing? What I want to do? You don't know what you want, but you know you can't put up with what you've been doing, and you have to start things differently. That was the first time. So when we're looking at these for times, we've got it. Let's see. Here's the Saturn. Where's the Saturn? Saturn's up top because we got the signs fixed. The Saturn here. This IC is up on the top. So the Saturn 61, it hits the descendant, and 67 starts coming out a bit. That's 6 years old, school, and then 69 it opposes his sun. So as it goes up into the 7th house, it opposes the sun. So 69, he starts school. He wasn't having an easy time of it in those days. That was a difficult adjustment time. Then, and we don't know if that's a parent's teacher, whatever, but it would have been a difficult time for him where he had to bide his time. Things weren't going the way he wanted. And when you're that young, it's usually the authority figures around you and you're feeling a little oppressed. Sometimes it can be something to do with father. Anyways, that happened, and then it built up to it. Saturn built up to his midheaven in 74. So 74, he's only 13. That's his peak status. So he's probably established, confident, fitting in the world, in the school, like he's somewhat established himself, even at that young age. It's a more confident time living up to things. Then it would have pressed on, squared the ascendant, but it squared the sun. But then when it hit the ascendant in 81, that was the 81. That was the first big shift. That was really the letdown of the previous whole while. I can't live for that. Who am I? I don't fit in here. What am I doing? And the insecurity actually would have started back in 79 even, going into the 12th house. But then he has the identity crisis, not motivated, depressed, and feeling inadequate. And that forces him to think, well, I need something new. I have to move towards something new. And that goes along. And as it goes along, it hits his sun. 83, Saturn conjunct the sun. So there were strong things that define goals and decide what you had to do. And it would be some of the first times of him making his own decisions for himself. Still, their first house is, what do I want? What do I want to do? What I think, like, it's formative, but it's still below the horizon, first house. Then this is in the personal growth quadrant. By 89, it hits his descendant. 89, 61. Okay, so he's 28 here. He's coming up to a Saturn return. And he knows he doesn't want to live a certain way. He's got to change it. I can't live this way. I can't live that way. I can't go there. And I have to. He doesn't know what he wants, but he knows what he doesn't want anymore. It's the beginning of his personal motivation. It's the deepest point. So in 89, he's having to decide, I can't live like this. I got to do something different. He's going to want to change it right away over a year or two with the Aries moon right away. But really, he's going to be changing and moving away from that, what he doesn't want for the next 15 years. As Saturn builds all the way up to the midheaven. But you feel it at that time. You're not established, but you feel I can't stay here. I got to make a decision. And it affects your motivation for a long time. It's really another 30 years before, or 29 years before you get back to making those motivations again, which is closer to now. Then the Saturn return came and squared his sun, adjusted his goals in 91. By 97, it's hitting his descendant. By 97, he's here, somewhere in here, in this period, the Saturn return, and on somewhere in this period, he came to Canada. And he's studying astrology, but then he starts coming out of his shell again. It's Saturn above the descendant. Starts coming out of the home, out of the, it's not just a question of surviving, getting by now. What else is there? It goes above the horizon. But the minute it goes above the horizon, within a year or two, by 2002, no, by 99, Saturn's opposing his sun. So between relationships, whereas there's still a depression, a restriction of having to bide his time, things not working quite the way he wanted. At that point, things aren't that easy in 90, at that time, 99. So that's at 38. Now, from there, it builds up. It gets past that. It's building, makes some decision about what work he's doing. It, adjusts, it builds up. And in 2003, it's on his midheaven. He's at a peak of status. Now, it's in Canada more than where he was. So this is his second world. He's up in Canada. He's got his home. He's got his job. He's established. And his ego and his confidence would be up and around, and his power would be around his career and his status. It'll go along 2005, 6, there's some adjustments and goals, but really it's in 2009 into 2010 where Saturn goes into the 12th house and he gets his next identity crisis. So the first time he studied astrology with me would have been back in the 90s. So it would have been probably as Saturn was in the 6th house going to the 7th house, would have been for about 3 years. And probably up to the opposition in that period. Now, Saturn's on the ascendant. This is 2010. He goes through identity crisis. Where am I? What am I doing? And it pulls him into himself, feeling insecure in himself. Then again, in 2012, he has to define his goals. What am I going to do? I got to make a commitment. What am I going to do? What do I want? What's serious? What's real? So he made some, again, serious. His Saturn is in his 4th house with Jupiter. I got to understand. I got to make a good plan. There's need for a plan here. Okay, so he makes a responsible plan. And he defines his goals. But the Saturn is going below the horizon of personal growth. So his direction is not as much about career, and he would know this, not so much about career as developing himself the way he wants to be, learning the things he wants to do, adding the things he wants to, building up the lifestyle the way he wants it. Now, when Saturn hits the ascendant, that's difficult on the partner because you're feeling insecure in yourself and you don't have the extra energy to give the partner, or the partner's in a space they're demanding too much and you're getting detached from it. So he gets pulled into himself and tries to work in his own way and carry things through here. Still going to be responsible, but it's not he's not a radical person, but he's building up. Then Saturn hits his IC in 2018, hit his IC in 2018. This was a big thing. This is his second point of how do I want to live? I can't put up with what I've been doing. I can't do this anymore. I can't do that. I got to make a change. I got to see us moving towards a new direction. And he's going to start moving that way. And then he comes up to the Saturn return, this whole 2 cycles of Saturn. This normally the first cycle is your physical family, second is your social and your personal social world and your marriage, your kids if you have them, and the third cycle is supposed to be the beginning of your spiritual cycle. So this is the Saturn return is in around 2020, 2019, 2020, right now. That's right. It's really in the next month or so. So he's right on his Saturn return now, and the Saturn return it's tied into the IC. So we had the Saturn's on the IC. It's coming up to the Saturn return, and it's going to square the Sun. There'll be a need to adjust goals. So I think this guy's a teacher. He's an astrologer. He's a knowledgeable. He's going to want to work with his ideas. He has his talents, his ideas, his visions, and it's always been like the hobby, not the career. And I think he wants to turn around and do something significant in it where he's known. He's got his book to do, his knowledge to put it. He's got something to write, something to put together, a website, a blog, or something. He's got something to do where he gets known for, and he's sharing his ideas, and people are glad to hear his ideas. Maybe he starts teaching. So you got the 18 to 20. This is the IC to this. This is going on. Once this adjustment is made, it's going to be still effort, adding skills up to 2026. Well, 2026. He's past 65 there. He's got his Canada pension and his old age pension. Then he has some choices as to what he wants to do, how he wants to live the lighter part of his life. Okay, and as he does that, he's going to build up a whole status around that side. And this time it'll probably be more to his liking than not, more to what he wants than not. But, okay, so yeah, it's 2040. So he's got to be 80, 79, 80 before Saturn hits his ascendant the third time. Okay.